To our amazing viewers at Cheating Tales Lab, we'd love to hear, which part of the world are you joining us from? Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Perfect Moments. Marcus Lake adjusted his sunglasses and watched his 8-year-old daughter Emma build another sandcastle. The Pacific Coast waves crashed rhythmically behind them, and for the first time in months, he felt genuinely relaxed. After 15 years as a Marine and another 5 as a private security consultant, moments like these were rare gems. "Dad, look," Emma called out, her blonde curls catching the afternoon sun. "It's bigger than yesterday's." "Magnificent, Princess," Marcus replied, his weathered hands steadying the beach chair. At 42, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who'd seen combat and emerged stronger. His steel blue eyes, which had intimidated countless adversaries, softened completely when they fell on his family. Diana Lake emerged from their beach house, carrying a tray of sandwiches. Even after 12 years of marriage, Marcus still felt his breath catch when he looked at his wife. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and her green sundress fluttered in the ocean breeze. Ross texted, Diana said, settling beside him. "He's still coming for dinner tomorrow." Marcus nodded. His cousin Ross Evans had built quite a reputation as a forensic analyst with the FBI. They'd grown up together in Oregon, two boys who chose different paths but remained close. Ross with his analytical mind, Marcus with his warrior's spirit. "Emma, honey, come here for a picture," Diana called. Emma bounded over, sand flying from her small feet. Marcus noticed the bracelet on her wrist, delicate silver with what appeared to be tiny gems. He'd never seen it before. "Where'd you get that bracelet, Em?" he asked, genuinely curious. Emma's eyes lit up. "Isn't it pretty? A nice lady at the ice cream shop gave it to me yesterday. She said I was the most beautiful little girl she'd ever seen." Something cold settled in Marcus's stomach. He'd trained Emma never to accept gifts from strangers. Diana caught his eye, sharing the same concern. "What did this lady look like?" Diana asked gently. "She was really pretty, with dark hair. She knew my name and everything. She said she was a friend of yours, Daddy." Marcus felt his muscles tense. He made mental notes of everyone in his circle. No one matched that description. But Emma was beaming, so proud of her new accessory, and the moment was too perfect to ruin with interrogation. "We'll talk about stranger danger later, okay, Princess?" he said, forcing a smile. "For now, let's get that picture." Diana held up her phone, capturing the three of them against the stunning coastal backdrop. Emma's bracelet caught the sunlight, creating tiny rainbow prisms on her arm. Marcus made a mental note to investigate the jewelry later, but for now, he wrapped his arms around his girls and smiled for the camera. The photo was perfect, a snapshot of American family bliss. Marcus's protective stance, Diana's radiant smile, Emma's innocent joy with her mysterious bracelet glinting in the California sun. It would be the last normal moment they'd have for a very long time. As the sun began to set, Marcus felt that familiar tingle at the base of his neck, the same instinct that had kept him alive through 3 tours of duty. Something wasn't right. The bracelet, the strange woman, Emma's casual mention that the woman knew his name. These weren't coincidences. But Emma was chattering about seashells, and Diana was planning tomorrow's menu, and the waves kept their eternal rhythm. For now, Marcus pushed down his suspicions and enjoyed the perfect evening with his family, not knowing that hundreds of miles away, someone was watching and waiting for that exact photo to be sent. Chapter 2, The Call. The next morning arrived with typical California sunshine, but Marcus woke with an unshakable sense of unease. He'd spent years trusting his instincts, and they were screaming at him now. Over coffee, he found himself studying Emma's bracelet more carefully. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Diana said, noticing his scrutiny. "Though I wish she wouldn't accept jewelry from strangers." Marcus picked up Emma's wrist gently. The bracelet was more sophisticated than he'd initially thought. The gems weren't just decorative, they seemed to have small mechanisms inside them. Tiny, almost imperceptible, but there. "Emma, can you tell me exactly what the lady said when she gave this to you?" Emma scrunched her nose in concentration. "She said she'd been watching our family and thought I deserved something special. She knew we lived in the blue house with the white fence. She knew you were in the Marines, Daddy." Every alarm bell in Marcus's head started ringing simultaneously. This wasn't a random encounter. Someone had been surveilling his family, studying them, learning their patterns. The bracelet wasn't a gift. It was something else entirely. Did she say anything else? Anything about why she was giving it to you? She said it would help her keep me safe, Emma replied innocently, then ran off to play with her dolls. Marcus felt ice in his veins. Keep her safe from what? He pulled out his phone and sent the beach photo to Ross with a message. Need your expert eyes on something. Family photo from yesterday. Call me ASAP. 2 hours later, his phone rang. Marcus, how fast can you get home? Ross's voice was deadly serious, stripped of all casual warmth. I'm at home, why? No, I mean home. Away from wherever you took this photo. Away from your family. Marcus's blood pressure spiked. What's wrong? Don't call your wife. Don't let her know you're coming. Just leave. Now. Ross, what the hell? The bracelet on your daughter's wrist. Ross's voice was tight, professional. She doesn't have much time. The phone felt heavy in Marcus's hand. Through the window, he could see Emma playing in their backyard, the bracelet catching the morning light. Diana was reading on the porch, completely unaware that their world was about to implode. What do you mean she doesn't have much time? Marcus's voice was barely above a whisper. I ran the photo through our enhanced imaging software. That bracelet isn't jewelry, Marcus. It's a delivery system. Those aren't gems, they're microcapsules. And based on the oxidation patterns I'm seeing, they're designed to dissolve and release their contents over time. Marcus felt the world tilt. Release what contents? I can't tell from the photo, but the mechanism is sophisticated. Military grade. This isn't some psychopath with a chemistry set. This is professional. Someone wanted your daughter to wear a slow-acting poison for a specific reason. The warrior in Marcus took over, pushing down the panic. How much time? Based on the dissolution rate, I'm calculating, maybe 48 hours from when she put it on. When did you say she got it? Yesterday afternoon. Marcus was already moving, grabbing his keys, his wallet, the specialized toolkit he kept in his bedroom safe. Ross, I need you to. I'm already driving to you. But Marcus? This level of sophistication, this kind of planning, whoever did this knows you. Knows your family. Knows your routines. This isn't random. Marcus paused at his front door. Through the glass, he could see his wife and daughter, blissfully unaware that someone had turned their perfect family moment into a countdown to tragedy. The beach photo on his phone showed 3 happy people, but now all he could see was the tiny death machine clasped around his little girl's wrist. I'll call Diana once I'm on the road, he said. We'll meet you at. No, don't use phones after this call. If someone's been surveilling you enough to target Emma specifically, they're monitoring communications. Use the emergency protocols we set up after your discharge. Marcus understood. He and Ross had developed contingency plans years ago, back when Marcus's security work had attracted some dangerous attention. Dead drops, safe houses, coded messages. He'd hoped never to use them. One more thing, Ross added, his voice grim. The woman who gave Emma the bracelet? She didn't pick your daughter randomly. This is personal, Marcus. Someone wants to hurt your family to hurt you. And they're very, very good at what they do. The line went dead. Marcus stared at the phone for exactly 3 seconds, then shifted into the tactical mindset that had kept him alive through countless dangerous situations. His family was under attack. His daughter had been poisoned by a professional, and he had less than 48 hours to find the person responsible and save Emma's life. But first, he had to get his girls to safety without tipping off whoever was watching them, because he had no doubt they were being watched right now. Chapter 3. Into the Shadows. Marcus forced himself to walk normally to the backyard. Every instinct screamed at him to grab Emma and run, but Ross was right. If they were being surveilled, any sudden change in behavior could accelerate whatever timeline their attacker was following. Hey, princess, want to go on an adventure? He asked Emma, keeping his voice light. Emma looked up from her sandcastle replica, her face brightening. What kind of adventure? The kind where we pack quickly and go somewhere exciting. He glanced at Diana, catching her attention with a look that said everything. After 12 years of marriage, she read him perfectly. Diana's smile never faltered, but Marcus saw her shoulders tense slightly. That sounds wonderful. Should we pack for a few days? At least. Marcus knelt beside Emma, studying the bracelet up close for the first time. It was even more sophisticated than he'd imagined. The silver was actually titanium, and those weren't gems, they were sealed compartments with what looked like microscopic timers. Ross was right. This was military-grade technology. Emma, sweetheart, Can you tell me exactly where you were when the nice lady gave you this bracelet? Emma tilted her head, thinking. We were at Morrison's ice cream, remember? You were paying, and Mom was in the bathroom. The lady came up to me while I was waiting outside. Marcus felt anger burn in his chest. Someone had watched them, studied their patterns, waited for the exact moment when Emma would be alone. This wasn't opportunistic. It was planned with military precision. What did she look like again? Pretty, like I said. Dark hair in a bun. She wore sunglasses and a blue dress. Oh, and she had a scar on her hand. Right here. Emma pointed to the back of her left hand. A scar. That was something. Marcus filed the detail away while maintaining his casual demeanor. Okay, princess, let's get packed. We're going to visit Uncle Ross. As they moved inside, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Beautiful family, Marcus. Shame about the countdown. M. The signature made his blood freeze. M. After 15 years, he'd hoped never to see that initial again. Melinda Bates. Suddenly, everything made terrible sense. The surveillance, the sophistication, the personal nature of the attack. Melinda hadn't given Emma a pretty bracelet. She'd given her a death sentence designed specifically to torture Marcus. His hands shook as memories flooded back. Operation Ghost Dance, Afghanistan, 2013. Melinda had been their intelligence liaison, brilliant and beautiful and utterly ruthless. She'd been selling information to insurgents, getting Marines killed for profit. Marcus had uncovered her betrayal and testified at her court-martial. She'd been sentenced to 25 years in military prison. But as the MPs had led her away, she'd turned back with those cold, calculating eyes and said, I'll find what you love most, Marcus. And I'll take it away from you slowly. He'd thought she was locked away safely. Apparently, he'd been wrong. Marcus. Diana's voice cut through his paralysis. She was standing in their bedroom doorway, holding a suitcase, reading his expression with growing alarm. Get Emma in the car, he said quietly. Now. Diana didn't ask questions. She moved with the efficiency of someone who'd been married to a warrior long enough to know when threats were real. Within 5 minutes, they were driving away from their home, Emma chattering excitedly about their surprise adventure, completely unaware of the poison slowly dissolving into her bloodstream. Marcus drove carefully, watching his mirrors, taking a route that would expose any surveillance. His mind raced through possibilities. Melinda was out of prison, somehow. She'd found his family, studied them, targeted Emma with surgical precision. The bracelet was probably untraceable, the poison probably undetectable by normal means. But Marcus wasn't normal. He was a Marine with 15 years of combat experience and 5 years of private security work. He had resources, contacts, and skills that most people didn't. More importantly, he had Ross, who was probably the best forensic analyst in the FBI. And he had something Melinda had never possessed, people worth fighting for. His phone buzzed again. Another text. Remember what I told you, Marcus? About taking away what you love most? The bracelet releases in stages. Stage 1 is already happening. She'll start feeling tired soon. Stage 2 comes in 12 hours. Stage 3. Well, let's just say you'll want to find me before then. Marcus deleted the text and pulled over at a gas station. While Diana took Emma inside, he made a decision that would have horrified his younger, more rule-following self. He opened his trunk and retrieved a black duffel bag he'd hoped never to touch again. Inside were items from his darker days. Untraceable phones, fake IDs, cash, and weapons that weren't quite legal for civilian ownership. He'd kept them out of habit, never imagining he'd need them to save his own daughter. As he transferred the bag to his current car, he caught his reflection in the window. The suburban dad was gone, replaced by something harder, more dangerous. The man Melinda remembered from Afghanistan. The man who'd brought down a treasonous intelligence officer and destroyed her carefully constructed web of betrayal. She wanted to play games with his family? Fine. But she'd forgotten something important about Marcus Lake. He'd never lost a fight that mattered. And nothing had ever mattered more than this. When Diana and Emma returned, Marcus was already planning their next moves. First, they'd rendezvous with Ross at the safe house. Then they'd analyze the bracelet and figure out exactly what Melinda had done. Finally, Marcus would hunt down the woman who dared to threaten his daughter and make sure she never threatened anyone again. The war that had started in Afghanistan was about to have its final battle. And this time, Marcus had everything to lose. Chapter 4. ghosts, and revelations. The safe house was a nondescript ranch home in Bakersfield, purchased years ago when Marcus's security work had made him enemies. Ross's FBI sedan was already in the driveway when they arrived, and Marcus felt a wave of relief at seeing his cousin. Ross Evans looked every inch the federal analyst. Wire-rimmed glasses, pressed shirt, and the slightly pale complexion of someone who spent most of his time in laboratories. But Marcus knew his cousin possessed one of the sharpest minds in law enforcement. Uncle Ross. Emma ran to him, and Marcus's heart clenched as he noticed she was moving slightly slower than usual. Stage 1 was beginning. Ross hugged Emma while his eyes met Marcus's over her head. The message was clear: we're running out of time. Let's get inside, Ross said. I've got some equipment set up. The safe house's living room had been transformed into a mobile forensics lab. High-powered magnifying equipment, chemical analysis tools, and computer terminals filled every available surface. Emma, sweetheart, Diana said, why don't you watch cartoons in the back room while the grown-ups talk? Once Emma was settled with her tablet and headphones, Ross got straight to business. I've been researching your bracelet situation, he said, pulling up photos on his laptop. The good news is that the mechanism is sophisticated enough to be traceable. The bad news is that it's even worse than I thought. Marcus felt Diana's hand grip his arm. How much worse? The poison is a synthetic compound I've never seen before. It's designed to mimic natural cellular breakdown, which means by the time symptoms appear, most doctors would assume it's a severe flu or autoimmune response. They'd run standard tests, find nothing conclusive, and by the time they figured out it was artificial, she'd be dead. Marcus finished. Ross nodded grimly. But here's what's interesting. The delivery system is overkill for a simple assassination. This tech is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Someone wanted Emma to suffer slowly, and they wanted you to know about it. This is torture, not just murder. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Ross the text from Melinda. His cousin's face went pale as he read them. Melinda Bates, Ross whispered. I remember that name from your military files. She was the intelligence officer you exposed in Afghanistan. She was supposed to be in prison for 25 years, Marcus said. Ross was already typing on his computer. She was. Military records show she was incarcerated at the U.S. disciplinary barracks in Fort Leavenworth until his typing stopped. Oh, hell. What? She was released 6 months ago. Some kind of intelligence community prisoner exchange. Classified details, but it looks like she was traded for American assets captured overseas. Diana's voice was barely controlled. You're telling me they released the woman who wanted to kill our family? They probably had no idea about her personal vendetta against Marcus, Ross said. These exchanges happen at levels where personal history gets overlooked. Marcus was pacing now, his mind working through tactical possibilities. She's had 6 months to plan this. 6 months to study us, set up surveillance, develop that bracelet. This isn't impulsive revenge, it's a carefully orchestrated campaign. His phone buzzed. Another text. Are you enjoying the reunion, Marcus? I'm watching from not far away. Your daughter looks pale. Stage 2 begins soon. Marcus showed the text to Ross, who immediately started typing furiously on his computer. If she's close enough to see us, she might be transmitting from a nearby location, Ross said. I'm scanning for unusual electronic signatures in the area. While Ross worked, Marcus opened his duffel bag and began checking his equipment. Diana watched with growing concern as he loaded clips into various weapons. Marcus, what are you planning? I'm planning to end this, he said simply. Melinda wants me to suffer? Fine. But she made a mistake targeting Emma instead of me directly. What mistake? Marcus looked up, and Diana saw something in his eyes that reminded her why he'd been so successful in combat. She gave me motivation. When I was hunting her in Afghanistan, it was about duty, about justice. Now it's about my daughter. That makes me infinitely more dangerous. Ross looked up from his computer. I've got something. There's a van parked 2 blocks away with high-end communication equipment. It's been there since before we arrived. She's watching us right now, Marcus said. It wasn't a question. Probably. But Marcus, if we spook her, she might trigger the final stage of the poison early. Marcus considered this. He needed to neutralize Melinda without giving her a chance to accelerate Emma's poisoning. It would require precision, timing, and probably some risks that his family wouldn't approve of. Ross, can you remove the bracelet safely? Ross shook his head. It's got anti-tamper mechanisms. Try to cut it off or disable it, and it releases everything at once. We need the antidote. And Melinda has that. Almost certainly. Marcus made his decision. Then I'm going to get it. Diana grabbed his arm. You can't just walk into whatever trap she's set. I'm not walking into anything, Marcus said, pulling weapons from his bag. I'm going hunting. Ross, can you trace her communication signals? I can try, but do it. I need to know exactly where she is, what kind of backup she has, and how she's monitoring us. As Ross worked, Marcus felt the familiar calm that came before action. This was what he'd trained for, what he was good at. Someone had threatened his family, and now he was going to make them regret that decision. But first, he needed to know exactly what he was walking into. Because Melinda Bates was brilliant, ruthless, and had been planning this revenge for years. She wouldn't go down easily. His phone buzzed one more time. Come find me, Marcus. But hurry, stage 2 is beginning soon, and your precious Emma is going to start feeling much, much worse. Chapter 5, The Hunt Begins. Marcus studied the tactical display Ross had created on his laptop. Heat signatures, electronic emissions, and traffic patterns painted a clear picture of their situation. She's good, Ross admitted. 3 vehicles, rotating positions every 20 minutes. Professional counter-surveillance. But she's made one mistake. What's that? She's too close. She wants to see your reaction in real time, which means she's within visual range. That limits her possible positions. Marcus nodded, his mind already working through approach angles and sight lines. What about backup? At least 2 other people, possibly more. Military-grade communication equipment, which suggests professional operators. Mercenaries, Marcus concluded. She's hired herself a team. Diana had been listening to their tactical discussion with growing alarm. You're talking about this like it's a war zone. It is, Marcus said simply. Melinda declared war when she poisoned Emma. Now I'm going to finish it. Through the back window, Marcus could see Emma curled up on the couch, looking more tired than she should. Stage 1 was progressing. They were running out of time. Ross, I need you to keep monitoring their communications. If you hear anything about accelerating the timeline, call me immediately. Where are you going? To get some answers. Marcus kissed Diana goodbye, the gesture carrying the weight of a man who knew he might not return. Then he slipped out the back door and into the growing darkness. Years of combat experience kicked in as Marcus moved through the suburban neighborhood. He knew Melinda's team would be watching the safe house, but they'd be looking for obvious exits. They wouldn't expect him to go over fences and through backyards, moving like the special operations soldier he'd once been. It took him 30 minutes to work his way around to where Ross had identified the surveillance van. Marcus positioned himself on a rooftop with a clear view and waited. The van was professional, tinted windows, multiple antennas, perfect for mobile surveillance. But whoever was inside had made the classic mistake of staying in one position too long. They'd become complacent. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I see you, Marcus. Very impressive. But this isn't Afghanistan, and I'm not some insurgent you can intimidate. He looked around carefully, spotting the glint of optics from a building across the street. Melinda was watching him through binoculars or a scope, close enough to see his face, far enough away to feel safe. Another text. Your daughter is entering stage 2 now. Muscle weakness, difficulty breathing. She'll be scared, calling for her daddy. But daddy is playing soldier instead of finding the antidote. Rage burned through Marcus, but he forced it down. Anger would make him sloppy, and Emma couldn't afford that. Instead of responding to the text, Marcus did something unexpected. He walked directly toward the surveillance van. The van's occupants were clearly unprepared for a direct approach. Marcus could see them scrambling inside, talking rapidly into their radios. He knocked on the driver's side window. The window rolled down to reveal a man in his 30s, clearly a professional soldier. Can I help you? Yeah, Marcus said conversationally. You can tell your boss that Marcus Lake wants to make a deal. The man's eyes widened slightly. He'd obviously been briefed on Marcus's background. I'm listening. One-on-one meeting. Neutral ground. I'll come alone, unarmed, and she can bring the antidote. If she really wants to settle our business, she can do it face-to-face instead of hiding behind hired guns and poisoned children. Marcus's phone buzzed immediately. Melinda, of course. How noble. The great Marcus Lake, willing to sacrifice himself for his family. Fine. Memorial Park, the old gazebo. 1 hour. Come alone, and I'll consider bringing the antidote. Consider? Marcus texted back. Let's just say that depends on how entertaining I find our conversation. Marcus showed the exchange to the man in the van. Tell her I'll be there. As he walked away, Marcus felt his phone buzz one more time. But this text wasn't from Melinda, it was from Ross. Emma's getting worse. Breathing problems. Diana's trying to keep her calm, but we need that antidote soon. Marcus checked his watch. 1 hour until the meeting. 1 hour to figure out how to outsmart a brilliant, ruthless woman who had been planning this revenge for years. But as he moved through the darkness toward Memorial Park, Marcus allowed himself a cold smile. Because while Melinda had been planning, Marcus had been living. He had Ross's FBI resources, his own combat experience, and most importantly, he had everything to lose. Melinda wanted a final confrontation. She was about to get one. But it wouldn't go the way she expected. After all, she'd made the same mistake that had doomed her in Afghanistan. She'd underestimated Marcus Lake. Chapter 6. Face to Face. Memorial Park after dark was a maze of shadows and moonlight. Marcus arrived 15 minutes early and spent the time studying the terrain. The gazebo sat in the center of an open area, surrounded by trees that could hide shooters. Classic kill zone setup. But Marcus had expected that. He'd brought equipment that Melinda's team wouldn't anticipate: night vision, thermal imaging, and a few other toys from his private security days. If this was going to be an ambush, he'd at least see it coming. At exactly the appointed time, a figure emerged from the tree line. Even after all these years, Marcus recognized Melinda's walk. Confident, predatory, utterly self-assured. She looked almost the same as she had in Afghanistan, perhaps a little older, but still undeniably beautiful in a cold, sharp way. She wore dark clothing and moved with the fluid grace of someone who stayed in excellent physical condition. Marcus, she called out as she approached the gazebo. You look older. Prison agrees with you, he replied, stepping into the moonlight. Melinda laughed, a sound like broken glass. Prison was educational. It gave me time to think, to plan, to dream about this moment. Where's the antidote? Straight to business. How disappointing. She circled the gazebo like a predator sizing up prey. I was hoping we could reminisce first. Talk about old times. Marcus's earpiece crackled with Ross's voice. She's got at least 3 shooters positioned in the trees. Thermal imaging shows them covering all your exit routes. Marcus didn't react to the information. Instead, he kept his attention on Melinda. Your daughter is quite beautiful, Melinda continued. Those blue eyes, just like yours. It would be a shame if she didn't get to use them much longer. You want me, you have me. Let Emma go. Oh, but that would ruin the symmetry. You destroyed my life, Marcus. You took away my future, my freedom, my purpose. So I decided to return the favor by taking away yours. Marcus stepped closer. Your life was built on treason and murder. I just exposed it. Melinda's composure cracked for a moment, revealing the fury underneath. I was a patriot. I was trying to end a pointless war by providing information that would. You were selling out Marines for money. Marcus interrupted. Good soldiers died because of your intel. Good soldiers die in every war. At least their deaths served a purpose. Marcus felt his anger rising but forced it down. This was what Melinda wanted. To make him lose control, to turn this into an emotional confrontation instead of a tactical situation. The antidote, he repeated. Melinda pulled a small vial from her pocket, holding it up so the moonlight caught the liquid inside. It's right here, but I'm afraid the price has gone up. What do you want? I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything. So here's my offer. You can have the antidote, but first you're going to watch your wife die. Marcus's blood froze. What? Melinda smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression he'd ever seen. Did you really think I only had one plan? Your daughter's bracelet was just the opening move. Diana's morning coffee was laced with something special. She's probably starting to feel the effects right about now. Marcus's earpiece crackled again. Ross's voice was tight with panic. Marcus, Diana just collapsed. She's unconscious. I'm calling paramedics. No hospitals, Melinda said, as if she'd heard Ross. They won't know what to look for, and they'll waste precious time running the wrong tests. You have maybe 20 minutes before her condition becomes irreversible. Marcus felt the world shifting beneath his feet. This wasn't just about Emma. Melinda had poisoned both his girls. You sick? Careful, Melinda warned. I'm the only one who can save them. But I'll only save one. You have to choose, Marcus. Your wife or your daughter. You can't have both. For a moment, Marcus felt despair wash over him. This was worse than anything he'd faced in combat. In war, you could fight, you could strategize, you could outmaneuver your enemy. But this was pure, calculated cruelty designed to destroy him psychologically. Then he remembered something Melinda had said earlier. Something that didn't quite fit. You made a mistake, he said quietly. Melinda frowned. What? You said Diana's morning coffee. But we didn't have coffee this morning. We had orange juice. For just a moment, uncertainty flickered in Melinda's eyes. Marcus continued. And you said you were watching us from close range. But if you were really monitoring our every move, you'd know that Diana hasn't been drinking coffee because she's trying to get pregnant again. The uncertainty became confusion, then realization, then rage. You're bluffing, Melinda snarled. Ross, Marcus said loudly, knowing his earpiece would pick up his voice. How's Diana really doing? Ross's voice came through clearly. She's fine, Marcus. Worried sick about you, but fine. I had her fake the collapse when I realized what this psychopath was trying to pull. Melinda's carefully constructed plan crumbled in an instant. The psychological warfare she'd been waging depended on Marcus believing both his girls were dying. Without that leverage, she was just another criminal with a gun. But she still had shooters in the trees, and Emma was still poisoned. You think you're so smart, Melinda hissed. But your daughter is still dying, and I'm still the only one who can save her. Actually, Marcus said with a cold smile, I don't think you are. Chapter 7. The Trap Springs. Marcus's confidence seemed to unnerve Melinda more than anything else he could have done. She was used to being the smartest person in the room, the one holding all the cards. His calm certainty threw her off balance. What are you talking about? She demanded. I'm talking about the fact that you're not nearly as smart as you think you are, Marcus said. You spent 6 months planning this revenge, but you made 3 critical mistakes. Through his earpiece, he could hear Ross coordinating something in the background. Good. His cousin was following the plan they discussed. First mistake, Marcus continued. You assumed I'd come here alone and defenseless. I didn't. Melinda's eyes darted to the trees where her shooters were positioned. She spoke quietly into a throat microphone, probably checking on her team. Second mistake, Marcus said. You assumed that bracelet technology was untraceable. It's not. Ross tracked the components back to their manufacturer. We know exactly who made it, and more importantly, we know who bought it. This was a partial bluff, but Marcus could see it was working. Melinda's confidence was cracking. Third mistake, he said, stepping closer. You assumed I'd forgotten everything I learned about you in Afghanistan. I didn't. I know how you think, how you operate, and most importantly, I know your weaknesses. I don't have weaknesses, Melinda snarled. Everyone has weaknesses. Yours is arrogance. You're so convinced of your own superiority that you can't imagine anyone outsmarting you. Marcus's earpiece crackled. Teams in position, Ross reported. FBI tactical units have surrounded the park. Her shooters are neutralized. Right on cue, powerful spotlights blazed to life around the park. Melinda spun around, suddenly realizing that she was the one who'd walked into a trap. FBI. Everyone on the ground now. The amplified voice echoed across the park. Melinda looked back at Marcus with pure hatred. You bastard. You planned this from the beginning. The moment Ross told me about the bracelet, I knew it was you, Marcus admitted. Everything else was just theater to draw you out of whatever hole you were hiding in. Your daughter is still going to die, Melinda spat. I'm the only one who knows the antidote formula. Marcus smiled coldly. Wrong again. See, while we were having our little chat, Ross was busy. Want to know what he found? Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Melinda a photo. It was a military medical file with her photograph attached. Your prison records, he explained, including your complete medical history. Apparently, you tested your poison on yourself first to make sure it worked properly. The prison medical staff documented every symptom, every stage of progression, and most importantly, every treatment they used to counteract it. Melinda's face went ashen. That's impossible. Those records are classified. My cousin works for the FBI. Nothing's classified when a child's life is at stake. Through his earpiece, Marcus heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Marcus, Emma's responding to the treatment. Her breathing is improving, and she's asking for her daddy. Relief flooded through Marcus, but he kept his expression neutral. Melinda didn't need to know that her final card had just been played. "So you see," Marcus said, "I don't need you anymore. But you're still going to pay for what you did to my family." FBI agents were moving in from all directions now. Melinda looked around desperately, realizing that her escape routes were cut off, her team was captured, and her elaborate revenge plot had been turned against her. "This isn't over," she hissed. "Yes, it is." Marcus stepped closer, and for the first time since Afghanistan, Melinda Bates looked genuinely afraid. "You wanted to destroy my family to hurt me. Instead, you've given me something I never expected." "What's that?" Marcus's smile was sharp as a blade. "Closure. In Afghanistan, you got away with treason and murder for months before I caught you. You went to trial, got sentenced, and I always wondered if justice had really been served. Now I know." FBI agents surrounded them now, weapons drawn. Melinda raised her hands slowly, finally accepting defeat. "Melinda Bates," one of the agents called out, "you're under arrest for attempted murder, terrorism, and violation of your parole terms." As they cuffed her and began reading her rights, Melinda looked back at Marcus one final time. "I hope it was worth it," she said. Marcus thought about Emma, probably recovering in Ross's arms right now. He thought about Diana, who'd trusted him enough to fake her own collapse to help spring his trap. He thought about his family, safe and whole despite everything Melinda had tried to do to them. "It was," he said simply. As the FBI led Melinda away, Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he hadn't even realized he'd been carrying. The ghost from Afghanistan was finally laid to rest. But the night wasn't over yet. He still had to get back to his family. Chapter 8. Aftermath. The safe house had been transformed into a makeshift medical facility. FBI medics worked alongside Ross to monitor Emma's recovery while Diana sat beside her daughter, holding her hand and whispering reassurances. Marcus arrived to find Emma awake and alert, the bracelet finally removed and secured in an evidence bag. She looked tired, but her breathing was normal, and when she saw her father, her face lit up with a smile that made all the danger worthwhile. "Daddy, Uncle Ross said you caught the bad lady." Marcus knelt beside the couch and pulled Emma into a gentle hug. "That's right, Princess. She can't hurt anyone anymore." Diana looked up at him with eyes full of tears and pride. Ross explained everything. "How you figured out it was her, how you set the trap. I can't believe you planned all of that while." She gestured at Emma. "While our daughter was dying?" Marcus finished. "I had to. If I'd let emotion take over, I would have made mistakes. Melinda was counting on me to be desperate and sloppy." Ross approached with a medical report in his hands. "Emma's going to be fine. The antidote worked perfectly, and there shouldn't be any lasting effects. She might be tired for a few days, but otherwise, she gets to grow up," Marcus said, feeling emotion finally catch up with him. Emma yawned and snuggled closer to her father. "Daddy, why did the lady want to hurt me?" It was a question Marcus had dreaded, but he'd learned long ago that children deserved honest answers, even to difficult questions. "Sometimes, Princess, when adults make very bad choices, they get angry at the people who try to stop them. The lady made bad choices a long time ago, and I had to help other people understand what she'd done. She never forgave me for that." Emma considered this with the serious expression she wore when trying to understand grown-up concepts. "So she wanted to hurt me to make you sad?" "Yes." Emma's expression shifted to something that reminded Marcus strongly of himself. "That was a very bad choice." "Yes, it was. But it's over now." Ross pulled Marcus aside while Diana settled Emma for a nap. "The FBI wants a full debrief, but it can wait until tomorrow. Melinda's not going anywhere. They found enough evidence in her hideout to put her away for life." "What kind of evidence?" "Surveillance photos of your family going back months. Plans for other attacks if the poison didn't work. And most damning of all, detailed records of how she acquired the materials for the bracelet. She was planning to use this technology on other targets." Marcus felt a chill. Other families? Other people she blamed for her downfall. "You weren't her only target, Marcus. You were just her first." The weight of that revelation settled on Marcus's shoulders. If he hadn't stopped Melinda now, she would have moved on to destroy other innocent families. Emma's poisoning might have prevented dozens of other tragedies. "There's something else," Ross continued. "The prisoner exchange that got her released? It turns out several intelligence officials are now under investigation. They should have known about her vendetta against you." but somehow that information got buried in bureaucratic shuffling. Incompetence or conspiracy? That's what they're trying to figure out. But either way, there are going to be consequences for the people who put your family in danger. Marcus nodded, satisfied that justice would be served on all levels. But his attention was drawn back to his family. Diana had fallen asleep beside Emma, exhaustion finally claiming her. They looked peaceful, safe, and utterly precious. "Ross," Marcus said quietly, "I need to ask you something. Anything. When you first saw that photo, when you realized what the bracelet was, how close did we come to losing her?" Ross hesitated, then decided on honesty. "If you'd waited another 6 hours to send me that photo, or if I hadn't had access to the enhanced imaging software, or if the FBI hadn't been able to track down those prison medical records." He shrugged. "Let's just say we were very lucky." Marcus looked at his sleeping daughter and felt gratitude overwhelm him. Lucky didn't begin to cover it. They'd been saved by a combination of careful planning, professional expertise, family loyalty, and yes, a generous helping of luck. But mostly, they'd been saved by the simple fact that Marcus had never given up. Not in Afghanistan when he'd first suspected Melinda's treachery, not during the long legal process that had put her away, and not tonight when everything he loved was on the line. Melinda had been wrong about one crucial thing. She'd assumed that targeting his family would make Marcus weaker, more vulnerable. Instead, it had made him infinitely more dangerous. There was nothing he wouldn't do, no limit he wouldn't cross, no risk he wouldn't take to protect the people he loved. And that had made all the difference. Chapter 9, New Beginnings. 3 months later, Marcus stood in his backyard watching Emma play on the swing set he'd built the weekend before. The California sun was warm on his face, and for the first time since the beach photo incident, he felt completely relaxed. Emma had recovered fully from the poisoning, with no lasting physical effects. Psychologically, she'd bounced back with the resilience that children possess. She remembered the adventure of staying at Uncle Ross's house and the excitement of FBI agents, but the trauma seemed to have rolled off her young shoulders. Diana emerged from the house, carrying 2 glasses of iced tea. She'd been the one to struggle most with the aftermath, dealing with nightmares about what could have happened and anxiety about unknown threats. But therapy was helping, and time was healing the worst of the wounds. "Any word from Ross?" she asked, settling beside him on the porch swing. Marcus nodded toward his phone. "Melinda's trial wrapped up last week. Life sentence, no possibility of parole. The judge threw the book at her. Attempted murder, terrorism, violating parole, weapons charges. She'll die in prison." Diana was quiet for a moment. "How do you feel about that?" "Satisfied," Marcus said honestly. She made her choices. She could have served her time, gotten released eventually, and started over. Instead, she chose revenge, and innocent people suffered for it. Justice was served. What about the other officials? The ones who let her out in the first place? 3 people lost their jobs. One was criminally charged for deliberately hiding information about her threats against my family. Turns out he was hoping to use her skills for off-the-books intelligence work. Diana shook her head. "It's amazing how many people were willing to put us at risk for their own agendas." Marcus reached over and took her hand. "It's over now? All of it? Is it though? Are you sure there won't be others? Other enemies from your military days, other people seeking revenge?" It was a fear they discussed many times in therapy. Marcus's past would always carry risks, but they'd decided that hiding wasn't the answer. "There might be," he admitted. "But if there are, we'll handle them the same way we handled Melinda. Together, as a family, with Ross and the FBI and anyone else who wants to help keep innocent people safe." Emma called out from her swing. "Daddy, look how high I can go." Marcus watched his daughter soar through the air, fearless and joyful, and felt his heart swell with pride and love. This was what he'd fought for, this moment, this peace, this normal family afternoon. His phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number, and Marcus felt a familiar tingle of alertness. But when he answered, it was just a telemarketer selling home security systems. Diana laughed at his expression. "Still jumpy. Always will be," Marcus admitted. "But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Staying alert is what kept us alive." "Speaking of staying alert," Diana said with a meaningful look, "I have some news." Something in her tone made Marcus give her his full attention. "What kind of news?" Diana smiled and placed her hand on her stomach. The kind that means we're going to need a bigger swing set. Marcus felt joy explode through his chest. After everything they'd been through, after coming so close to losing everything, life was giving them a new beginning. Are you sure? He asked, grinning like an idiot. Very sure. I wanted to wait until after the trial, until I was certain we were really safe. But, she shrugged. We're as safe as we're ever going to be. Marcus pulled her into his arms and kissed her thoroughly, tasting tears of happiness on both their faces. When they broke apart, Emma was standing beside them with a curious expression. What's wrong? Why are you crying? They're happy tears, princess, Marcus explained. How would you like to be a big sister? Emma's eyes went wide with excitement, and she launched herself into their group hug with a squeal of delight. As Marcus held his growing family, he thought about the long journey that had brought them to this moment. The wars he'd fought, the enemies he'd made, the prices they'd all paid for his choices. It hadn't been easy, and it hadn't been safe, but it had led them here, to this moment of perfect happiness, earned through courage, sacrifice, and love. In the distance, a phone rang. But this time, Marcus didn't even look up. Whatever challenges the future might bring, he would face them the same way he'd faced Melinda Bates, with everything he had, for everyone he loved. And that would always be enough. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.